Marino,
Heard. What's up?
DeAngelis.
Oh, we have
I
DeAngelis.
was gonna say it, but
Too slow, too slow.
yeah, too slow.
Thanks for coming on, Steve.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited for this.
Yeah. We've been in each other's lives a long time, and since at least 2019, I think. And it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, I mean, Tom, I think I met back in 21, maybe. Um, but Adam, yeah, back in like 1920-ish, we met. Those were I remember taking a like hour-long phone call with you from my kitchen table in Astoria, um, based off of a DM on Instagram. That was the first time we ever spoke. It was supposed to be like a 15-minute meeting.
It's
So,
that sounds exactly right for Adam.
yep.
Yeah, that
It
does.
sounds right for Steve DeAngelis as well.
Yeah, that's why we jived you. That's why we work together. It's funny. I was talking about you to somebody today. I was sitting at their kitchen table, and we were just chopping it up about business and stuff. And he created this app called Be Better, and I'm like, man, I was telling Tom, this is basically mind, body, and business. And and I was like, and I told him, I actually sat with a couple of guys, and we were going to build this thing, and you were one of those too. So
Have you
we've
talked
always been
about mind
involved
body
with these
business
mind, body, business.
on this podcast before?
Yeah, see
Have you
that?
talked about it?
No, I haven't because it's in
Well,
my back pocket. It's one of those
Mm.
things that I truly want to do one day. But I want to be able to give it my all, and I'm not there yet mentally. But it is still a passion of mine. I don't think if anybody steals it, God bless you. It's great. So I've shared with people what it is, but no, I haven't shared it here. Maybe we will one day, but not today.
Not
Today,
today.
it's about how you really became the CEO because I've known you since you were organizing communities and putting on festivals and finding your way, and then you built your business, and now you have multiple businesses, and you have an amazing studio, which we've been lucky enough to record some stuff in there. Stay tuned; you'll see a different podcast, not this one, something else coming out. So we've had so much fun. We've been in our masterminds together. We've been doing that for 3 years together now. And we really do. We admire how far you've gone in such a short period of time at such a young man. And that's why we have people on here to really let our audience know how you became the CEO of your life and your business. So now that we filibustered for like 2 minutes, why don't you tell people who you are and what you do? And if you can, what differentiates you as either a person or a
Yeah.
CEO?
So first, I appreciate the kind words there. It's nice to get the reframe when sometimes you're in the shit every day, and it's good to step back and be like, all right, 4 years ago, what was going on? 2 years ago, what was going on? Like this is a very different place than we were even then. So uh, it's nice when you're getting. Maybe I'm at a point right now where like I need a break. Right, I'm going on vacation tomorrow. I'm very excited to step away and reset. And I'm feeling maybe not my best compared to where I was before, but it definitely helps to recenter and think about it in that way. So thank you. But yeah, I'm Steve DeAngelis. I own MMP Creations, and I'm co-owner of Bella Vita Studios right here in Huntington Village. So we do, between both businesses, we do the same thing, just in different settings, which is create real content, showing people in their real environment, doing what they really do, or talking about what it is they really do. And I think the real and organic side of things is where we're really leaning into, uh, as far as the types of people that we're working with, people that have to show what they do.
Mhm.
mm,
Yeah, that's always been your theme since I've known you is telling people stories. And what better way to tell somebody stories than the actual truth? you
Yeah,
know?
I think that's the today's day and age, right? That's the trust, and truth
mhm.
is going to be everything. And that's what we're trying to accomplish here. We've had some people walk through the doors who are trying to present a vision that isn't reality, and we just don't work with those people.
Yeah. And you've had some pretty wonderful experiences. You did one of the largest festivals on Long Island, music festivals on Long Island. You've helped produce a movie all on your own with like shoestring budget, last minute things. You've worked collaborated with so many people, and you've created your own brand, and then also helped other companies really brand themselves. Some giant companies, some mom and pop companies, and everything in between. But you've always stayed true to that storytelling. And what we're here really to do today is kind of help the audience understand a little bit about your story. So, Tom, why don't you take it from there?
Yeah, so we talk about our philosophy of believe, behave, become, and a lot of people want to know what was it that you had to overcome to to become this person that you are today. And you've changed, like in just listening to you and Adam, we talk a little bit about when you guys met and how you met, and what that was like, and the number of different things that you've done and how far you've come in the last 6 years, let's call it. What was a belief? And I'm going to reverse it a little bit. I don't want to know what you overcame. What was a belief that remained constant that allowed you to continue to keep moving forward?
That's a good question. I think I've always had the belief that I was always capable to do anything that I wanted to do. And that was reinforced a lot by Adam. You mentioned a bunch of the different projects that I was able to work on, and it was reinforced by that because none of those things just happened from sheer will of me doing it. It always happened from collaboration, right? You said like I was able to film a movie. Well, I wasn't able to do that. We had people around us. I had a guy, Tommy, who came up with the idea for the script and pitched it to us and threw it out there. And then we had a community of people who rallied around and were able to make it happen. And I think that's the thing that has always been reinforced is if you find the right people, you can make it happen, right? We built a music festival off of literally nothing. We were 23-year-old kids who had, we couldn't rub all of our, we couldn't put all of our money together and have $5,000 maybe to create this thing. Like we had to scrape and grind and figure it out. And, but it happened because we had roughly 100 people that were working together to make it happen between the artists and the producers and all these different things. So I think that's the belief that I've always had is I could always just make it happen.
But it's interesting as I hear that, and what we do for a living, we dig deeper. And it sounds to me like the belief is you said that you could always do it, but it sounds like you believed that others could do it and would do it with you.
Yeah, I believe that I could always rally the people to do it. I've
Yeah.
said it to Eric, who who's my main videographer on our team, and like sometimes he'll try to. I'll say, all right, we need to book these people for these shoots coming up, and it's tough for him to get an answer, and I just have this ability to get people to do things for me, and I've said that to him. I was like, Eric, sometimes I just need to that's just the skill that I have. I don't know where it comes from or why I have it, but I'm able to get people to believe in a vision and execute.
Well, that's something that you have proved. Like when you're competent at rallying people to do things for you, it builds a lot of confidence and allows you to continue that type of behavior over and over. And you do have a very good way of working with teams. We've seen it when we worked with you and you were doing our social media. It was very much a team effort, and you're very good at rallying a team, and that having that with that belief that you have to, you could do anything. That's such an important thing to couple together, right? Because a lot of people go into being a business owner and being a CEO, and they go into it thinking that they got to do all this themselves. But you have mastered at a young age how to rally a team, lead a team, and get people to do what you want them to do, and recognize that you don't need to do it all yourself.
Mastered is a strong word. I'd say maybe I have a bit of an ability, but I could definitely do more. That's for sure.
But you have the roots.
Yeah, I got the roots.
Okay, now you just gotta water it and make the tree grow, man. That's it. Don't
Yep.
don't underestimate. You see, there's a little self-doubt there. So do you have a
Mm,
self-doubt belief
it's turning into my
ever?
therapy session.
Ah! It's interesting when you put all this together, and then I look at your newest venture, Bella Vita Studios, which is a really a needed option for people here on Long Island to have a really high quality team that can record podcasts, edit them, put them together in content, tell a story, be consistent. Like you guys have really professionalized an industry that has become bigger and bigger and more of a need. And it's almost like what social media was back in the day, where it's like, all right, I guess I have to do social media. A lot of people are starting to feel like I have to do a podcast. No, many people want to do a podcast, but they didn't really see the way through how to do that. And you've provided a very simple solution, an elegant way of doing it that gives rock star results on the other end. And what I mean by rock star results is like truly telling someone's story through video, through audio, through storytelling, through this podcast medium. So I didn't know that this was ever a vision that you had, but it seems like when you collaborated with Dan, the everything man, Dan, the
Mhm.
podcast man, Dan, the safety man, Dan, the real estate man, Dan, the man, when you found him and collaborated with him, it was again another bringing together of something. Um, how did that end up having? How did you believe like, okay, I can go ahead and start a studio?
How did I believe it?
Well, however you wanna, I'm
Yeah.
wondering if that previous belief that we uncovered of like, I can rely on other people are capable and I can do that in a collaboration thing, like, where how does that end up leading to you starting this studio is what I'm asking, basically.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, for years we've been doing podcasts for people, right? Just not in a studio setting. And it was always a piece of what we do for some of our clients. And it over the years it became a bigger piece because it's something like you said that everyone's trying to do, and I think a lot of businesses are utilizing it not just for the content itself, although that is a massive piece of it, but for the networking, for the relationships, for the one-on-one time that you can have with someone directly. So when I started working with Dan last year as a client, um, he hired us to do his podcast, and he was filming in another studio. It was subpar for the result that he was looking for. He wasn't necessarily happy with the outcome. And then he was kind of giving us the footage and saying, "Hey, I love what you're doing with the podcast that you're filming. Can you take this and turn it into something?" But he didn't have a space to do it. So he had to continue doing it in that space. He came up with the idea. I mean, literally 2 or 3 months after working with us, he said, "Hey, I'm gonna build a podcast studio." He was thinking like in his basement or in his dad's basement or something. Like, can you just put together a gear list for me so that I could buy all the stuff and you guys can help me set it up? And then I don't have to book studio time or do this. Like, I'll just have it and I'll call you guys and we'll film and you guys can still edit it and do the whole thing. So Eric put together a gear list and sent it over to Dan, and he was like, "Oh, this is great. This is relatively achievable. Like, we can definitely do this." And we just got to talking about, he's like, "Hey, I know you don't have a studio space. Would you ever want one?" And we were doing podcasts with guys like TJ, who you've had on your podcast, who are business owners that have grown over the years. So when we were doing podcasts on site with them at the beginning, it was a lot easier because he had an empty gym for 3 hours in the afternoon, but now he doesn't have an empty gym for more than 30 seconds. They don't have time to film in their space where we were. So it just made sense for us to have a space. And that's when we decided to go in and create it.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that answered the question of like what was the belief, but
No, but it was, that's what I was asking.
it
You
was
answered
kind of
it.
a no-brainer
Yeah.
move for us to have this space, because we were in just like a small office space, and
Well, it sounds like the belief is that you were growing, your clients were growing, the industry in itself was growing, and why not just move forward with this? Now you have somebody you can do it with. So
yeah,
it's pretty impressive.
exactly.
So, in our believe, behave, become, we say our beliefs dictate our behaviors. So, how is you believing in others and believing in your capabilities? How has that allowed you to either dictate, change, implement, utilize the certain behaviors to allow you to truly become the CEO of your business and your life?
I think if we're talking about utilizing other people's talents, right, and building a team, I've always needed that. I was never the best videographer or the best editor, right? And I think I always needed that other person or those other people around me to bring the vision that I had in my head to life, or that our clients had in their heads to life. And it just utilizing those people always allowed me to settle into what it was that I was good at, which was producing. It was ideating and uh, trying to find the themes in the businesses and build a strategy that then the people could go and execute. And if I was stuck in the work, I wouldn't be capable of doing what I was good at for more people.
Yeah, I know in my life and many of our clients' lives, the acceptance, this may sound weird, but the acceptance of incompetence is a very hard truth to realize. Most entrepreneurs, they got where they are now because they piled everything on their shoulders and carried it. And it's really, really difficult when they get to that point of like, I'm really incompetent in this, whether it's hiring or marketing or, as you said, editing or any of these other things, to not just want to go out there and learn it and do it yourself. And that is a tough truth because then the realization is I have to actually go ask somebody for help, but I'm supposed to be the guy that solves all the problems and I'm not supposed to ask for help. And it's this weird paradox that we put ourselves in. that if you have that ability, and it sounds like you had that ability early on, for a lack of competence in certain areas, but not letting your ego get so offended and touched by it, but
Yeah.
realizing that, okay, this is a good thing that I've realized it. Not like, oh, woe is me. I'm not sufficient enough. I'm not good enough. Because that's where a lot of people will go. And that's where they plateau in whatever area of life they're at.
And when you put it
Luckily,
that way when you put it that way, I'm uncovering new things that I've been competent at all the time. Right?
Well, it's a key behavior of leadership, you know, when you recognize your own limitations and you recognize the strengths in other people and you start to lean into their strengths and you lean into your strengths, that allows you to accomplish way more, right? It's you're built the sum is greater than the whole of its parts, whatever it is, whatever that phrase is. But you know, you're putting together something that really becomes much bigger when everybody's leaning into their strengths. And it sounds like that you have adopted that as a primary behavior is being able to rely on other people, being able even to delegate. Because so many business owners in the early phases, they have very difficult time delegating, and we talk about this in our coaching with them. Just lean into the person's strength, lean into your strength, lean into theirs, and minimize the weaknesses, and then everything is strong. And it's such a key behavior of leadership, and that's what starts to really form the identity of the CEO, is how well that person rises to that, working with other people and leaning into what they've surrounded themselves with. And always say you don't want to be the smartest person in the room when you're a leader or the CEO of any business, because if you're the smartest person, then that's going to cause some other difficulties for you. So, Steve, you've had so many of these different roles. Like, what is a key how do you see yourself today? What is your key identity of who you've become at this point, other than CEO?
Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting question. I think I'm still wrestling with that and figuring it out on an everyday basis, but I know at my core that I try to be a great husband and great father first and foremost. That's become like my core identity ever since having my daughter last year. Like that's the thing that I don't move things for. I don't change things for. I'm always trying to be that. I got to pick her up after this, right? That's why I have to leave at the time that I have to leave at. Um, so that's been the main, I guess, identity shift. Now I know that's not necessarily related to being a CEO of the business, but um, I've I've had to spend less time doing the things for the business to prioritize that, um, and that's been the main thing right now. I don't know
But
if that answers the question at all.
how has that caused you to act as the CEO of your business?
I've had to trust people a lot more, right? I've had to not just say it to you guys here, like, oh, I've had, good at delegating or this or that. Like, I've had to bring people in. More recently, I made a new hire that's doing something that I was doing and very much failing at with, communication and staying on top of relationships that we already have. So I think that's the main thing is just realizing it just opens up more of those holes that we know we need to fill with other people.
That's something that I was lucky enough to realize at a certain point. I was forced into more of a leadership position, and I've watched people who have hit a higher level of responsibility, whether they're CEO or not. That if it really makes those things that need to be addressed much more aware. They're brighter, they're louder, they're in your face. They're going to keep nagging at you until you get it taken care of. Where when we don't level ourselves up, it's just kind of in the background and all right, it's a problem, but I don't have to deal with it. And then when you start to add any layer, whether it's becoming a father or becoming a business partner or becoming more successful, having employees, hitting certain milestones, all of a sudden those things are shouting at you. And people can either regress or they can take hold of that by letting go of that. And that's what most people have to do. When you become the CEO, your roles minimize, right? You have less and less and less responsibilities because you're looking at the overarching picture of the vision of what you're trying to create. And that's where most people get lost is they think, oh, I'm going to have so much more I have to do. And it's not. It's you have a lot less you have to do that's more intense, it's more purposeful,
It's
it's
also
more
different than
very
what you intended when you first did the thing, right? You guys probably you talk about this all the time. Um, People get into business because they're good at the thing, right?
Mhm.
You're the best architect or you're the best coach. And that when you build the business or start to build the business, you have to become something that you're not already. I mean, that's literally what the whole
We
podcast is about.
Well, you certainly have to choose, right? And I
Hmm.
think that is the thing. We were with somebody earlier today, and they're a physical therapist, and we were talking to them about growing into a much bigger, spread, many locations. And I was telling them, like, you can grow your business, be the CEO, and still be the greatest physical therapist. You can delegate the whole C-suite. You don't
Hmm.
have to be that.
That's very
But
true.
you can't be both. Like, you do have to choose what role you're gonna
Mhm.
play because that role is gonna be vital, or delegating that role, even if delegation is the CEO, which very few people ever do, but if you delegated that role, then it's okay. I really have that, and I can focus on what I'm doing, and then what you're doing, if you are continuing to practice whatever you're doing, you can become even better at that. So it's always a leveling up in what you're doing, but it's the choice to really listen to the signal and start eliminating that noise out and being like, okay, this is just bullshit. Like I don't have to really pay attention to these things because they're not important.
Hmm.
And earlier on, most of us, it's flipped. Like all the noise is all the important stuff, and the signal. We're like, one day when I get there, one day when I grow, one day when I make more money, one day when I reach this milestone. And it's no, for most of the time, it's if you put that up front, yeah, it's quiet now, but it can become louder if you put your focus in on that. And it sounds like for you, fatherhood has allowed you to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it made me realize how much time I was wasting, right? Doing a bunch of things that I shouldn't have been doing or doing them maybe inefficiently, right? I'm not big on like optimization in a way. I think like building a foundation or a strong foundation is really important, and then you can optimize later. But yeah, you're forced to at a certain level when you don't have time or when you sleep 3 hours because there's a newborn who's keeping you awake all night.
Yeah, that's a philosophy behind Parkinson's law, right? It's like the time expands, the work expands to the time we give it,
Hmm.
right? And it's whether it's time or it's bandwidth, right? If you only have a certain capacity for things, and when you become a father, that capacity gets cut real quickly.
Hmm.
You're forced to optimize. You don't think about optimizing; you're just optimizing, right? You're forced to listen to more signal and less noise. And that's why we many times pressure people into challenging themselves at another level, even if they're not ready for it. This is why I always love that. I don't know who came up with the saying, but it's get comfortable being uncomfortable. That uncomfort is where you solve the problems. When you're very comfortable, it's not a bad thing to be comfortable, but you can't also want to grow.
Mhm.
Yeah, I could say that anytime I've been comfortable is when it slows down, right?
Yeah,
It's
and
that's
slowing
when
down
it's
is a beautiful thing
yeah.
if that's what you want.
Hmm.
But when it's slowing down and you want growth, you want success, you want more time with your kids, you want whatever it is, well, that means you need to start getting uncomfortable. And that is most of what a CEO is. See, a CEO works for the business, works for the employees, works for the clients. Like they don't have time to themselves. So they are at the end of every decision. All we do all day long is deal with all the problems being uncomfortable. That's our entire job. There's no good stuff that we do. Nothing's good. Nothing's like, "Ooh, this is great." No, no, no. We give that great stuff to all the people, and then we go handle the next problem or opportunity. But all of that is uncomfort. All of that is unfamiliar. And it's like, well, this is what I'm in the charge of. And if
Mhm.
you get to that point where it's like, oh, smooth sailing, everything's simple, nice and comfortable, well, then consider an exit. There's nothing wrong with that either. But it's like, do you
Yeah.
have to do this any longer? No.
I had a conversation with Eric earlier today where we were talking about, you know, we're getting to this like ceiling of capacity and all these things. And to give a little bit of context, we had a really hectic, like 3 week period. Um, all of our clients, for whatever reason, because we do like pretty much monthly contracts with most of them, um, all of their shoots lined up like in a 2 week period where we were just in the shit for, so it was like, great, we're filming everything and now it's all got to get done. And that meant that Eric Arnold and the guys had really tough couple of weeks of getting through the backlog of things. Um, and today we were talking about, all right, how do we avoid that in the future? What are some of the things that we could fix? Do we need to move people into different places in order to make that not happen? Or make it a little bit more comfortable when it does happen. And he was kind of presenting this question to me of like, how do we make sure that doesn't happen again? And I go, it's going to happen again. Like, especially if we grow the way that we want to be growing, it's just going to keep happening. So I think we just have to get comfortable with the fact that that's going to happen all the time. Um,
There is
and maybe
I
that
can give you an
means,
interesting philosophy on how to
okay,
overcome that if you want it.
please.
Okay. 13 cycles a year. That's it. So
13
everybody,
4-week cycles.
that's it. 28 days, 14, 7 days. You have 4 cycles. We have 13. We have shoot 4. That's it.
Mm,
And your capacity is for that. And they obviously pay for the 13, but that's why you'll see many, many companies go on a 28-day billing period. It's confusing for some because, well, I thought it was the first of the month and now it's the third of the month and now
yeah,
but
it's just
it's
every 4
28 day.
weeks.
And the reason you do that is to avoid those 2 times per year when you're like, well, what do I do in this 5 weeks? We have so many businesses like, hey man, I'm having a tough month. We're like, yeah, it's 5-week payroll. You got 3 payrolls this
Uh,
time, huh? They're like, yeah. So when you go on that 28 day, or if you're on payroll, when you go on the 1st and the 15th or monthly payroll, like we do at Atomic, you can start to control those variables.
mhm.
Because it is really hard to deal with that. We're not meant, we're really not meant to have 12 months. It's 13 months, and it would simplify things. I'm sure there's a lot of conspiracy theorists that will go talk about the moon and the this and the that and who changed the calendars and what it's supposed to be. And if you look at October, it's really not supposed to be the 10th month. It's supposed to be the 8th month, and December is Deca, and it's supposed to be the 10th. And yeah, maybe that's true. Maybe we've been pushed out of our cycle, but you can certainly maybe not control the Gregorian calendar, or whatever it's called, but you can
Whatever it
definitely
is.
control your business calendar. You can
Mhm.
definitely control how you develop your business, what cycle people are on, how you operate with them. And that is the thing that you get to do. You get to put out that fire and explore options and see like, is this the way we want to do it? Or do we just want to man up and during those 2 times per year deal with that issue? So there's a little I went way off on it. What's the name of the calendar, Tom?
I'm not sure. The
Is it
Gregorian
is it
or
Gregorian?
The
Gregorian?
Gregorian, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's right. I don't know. It's
It sounds
after
he said it with
Christ.
confidence.
Some guy named Greg really fucked
Yeah,
us up.
Yeah,
he
the
said it. I'm gonna take it
yeah,
as
it's
true.
probably the Gregorian calendar because it's comes from the church. I think the church actually established the calendar.
I think so.
So, I think it was. So,
Alright, so we got a
Steve,
few minutes left here.
yeah.
Alright, we have a challenge, a question that we ask for everybody, but before we do that, you have this amazing studio. If people wanna check it out, if people wanna come see what you guys are doing with both your business combined, content and all that, what's the best way to either get in touch with you or actually come see it and see what it's all about?
Best way to get in touch with us is probably through Instagram, at Bella.Vita Studios. Where you just search Bella Vita Studios. We're right in there. We're on all platforms, but Instagram's probably the best to get directly in touch with us. If you want to get directly in touch with me, MMP Creations is the right place, and you can go to our website, mmpcreations.com. We have a website for the studio coming very soon. Yeah, that's the best way to get in touch with us. We're pretty active on Instagram.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it. We'll put all that obviously in the show notes, and we'll tag that stuff when we post anything. But yeah, if you're out there, if you're interested in really doing a high quality podcast with professionals at what I believe is an extremely affordable rate, I would recommend looking into Steve, looking into Bella Vita Studios. They really are professional, and that's when we're putting our business in somebody else's hands. That's really what we need. And I commend you, your team, your staff, the way that you've done it. You've done a really incredible job, man. I'm very proud of you, and glad
Thank
to
you.
call you a friend. And let's get into the question. Ready, Tom?
All right, let's hear it.
I'm ready. All
Who's
right,
doing it, me
Steve,
or you?
you could do it. I don't care.
All right.
I always
I'll
mess
get
it
Tom to
up.
do it one of these days. All right, here's the challenge, Steve. There's a lot of our listeners that are just like us. They're in the middle of it. They're in the grind of it. They may be past it and they've done it. But there is a segment of people that are listening to this with this hope, this potential. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get off the couch and I'm going to start a business today. This sounds great. You've really inspired them. But they still are lacking the motivation or the tactical ability to start. So the challenge is, almost anybody right now can go out and get $10,000. I know if you're listening, you may be like, I can't get 10. You can. There's $10,000 available to friends, family, credit, anything else to start a business. In many businesses, you don't even need money. But the challenge is, I give you $10,000 and I only give you 2 hours per day and 1 year. How would you, with $10,000, 2 hours a day, and 1 year's time, build something that in a year can be a sustainable business? What would you do with all the knowledge you have today?
Would I do it with the same skills? that I have, like
Yeah,
from we'll call
you're
video
you.
production
But that's
side of
I
things.
just put you in that bound creativity of like you got 10 grand, that's it. You got 2 hours a day, that's it, and you got 1 year, and it's got to be a sustainable business after that. What would you do?
That's kind of what I did with this business. It's kind of how I started it. Maybe not 2 hours a day. It was definitely more than 2 hours a day. But I think what I would do would be exactly the same. As soon as I had enough money to hire, I did. Right. So I was able to identify the weaknesses that I had. Eric was an opportunity to come to us. And I basically had 2 months worth of his salary saved up and said, I'm going to go and figure it out. I looked at was she my fiance at the time? I think my fiance at the time, girlfriend, fiance at that point in time. And I said, I want to do this, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to pay myself um, for a little while. We had rent and stuff like that, and we were living together. So it was a family decision at the time and said, hey, I want to do this thing. But in order to do it, I'm going to have to pay Eric. I'm going to have to pay Matt to do those things. But I think that's what I need to do in order to actually make it happen the way that I want it to happen. And so that's what I did. I invested in them and never missed a paycheck to myself. Because as soon as I did that, I was able to go out and sell and find the 3 or 4 more businesses that we needed to double, at that time to get to the call it like 12-ish thousand dollars a month to be able to pay myself and pay 2 guys to handle the work and then continue to grow from there. So I think I would do the same thing. That's kind of been my theme this whole podcast is like other people and finding the other
Mhm.
people to complement yourself. And I think that's exactly what I would do is I would use that $10,000 some way, shape, or form to convince other people to take that money from me, maybe at a discount, um, to fill a hole that I needed so that I could go and sell the product that they're going to then deliver
Well,
and then
there's
continue to
two
do that.
layers that you added to that. Yes, you'd rely on other people, but the two other layers are I'm going to go do what's necessary, sell to make sure this works, and then the first part of it is I'm going to take personal sacrifice with a support system. You had your fiance or girlfriend at the time. You had a communication with her because she was relying on you for certain things too, and you had that. I don't want to say permission, but I mean permit. You had that
No,
approval
it
to like.
was certainly permission.
There you go. So you had
If
that
she was
permission, and
like, "No way, we're scraping right now, it's not gonna work," or she didn't have that belief in me, I wouldn't have had the belief in myself.
right. So it's the support. I'm going to put it in that frame instead of
Mhm.
permission, but both. And then the willingness to sacrifice even your own pay to then invest in others while you went out and still worked. And I think that's what many people don't realize in the beginning is there's a lot of personal sacrifice and a lot of unpaid work. Most of what anybody I've seen who has started something from nothing, they really did a lot for free in the beginning. And I'm a huge advocate of giving work away for free, but I'm also a huge advocate of doing work for free for yourself, right? Whether that be building your own website, which you don't need when you're starting a business, whether that be smile and dial and make the phone calls, whether that be creating your own marketing or social media, any of these things, there's resources that go into them when you start. There's time, there's money, and there's energy. And if you're willing to sacrifice the reward of spending those resources, you can build something great. But when you add that layer in, like you did, of investing in others, it'll only be exponential growth in that area. So I commend you for doing that. And Steve, thanks for being the CEO, pal.
Thanks for having me, guys. This was fun.
Thanks, Steve.